Welcome to Ancient Geeks, a podcast about two geeks of a particular age, harkening back to their early days when we discovered all this wonderful geekery, when geekness was fresh. It was geek before it was chic. And today we're going to be talking about, well, the second parter. We did Star Trek 3 in our last episode, and now we're going to do Star Trek 4, finishing the trilogy of 2, 3, and 4. I'm your co-host, having a whale of a good time here, Tom Grant.
And I'm your co-host, Stephen Taylor.
And I got in the whale pun before you did.
That was my joke was about whales, but then I didn't have a backup.
Yeah, we have to have a backup joke.
Should have a backup joke.
Because last episode, I thought you were gonna get in with my joke before I got the punch in, but the punchline. Okay. Well, as we are wont, let's start by talking about what sort of geekery we've been doing lately. So, how about you?
So I have started to prepare for next week and am watching another movie because we're on a movie marathon kind of pathway here. 1968's Planet of the Apes.
Okay. I was going to ask, is your house a madhouse? A madhouse.
It might be.
Because you were bringing in the dogs. I mean,
I was bringing in the dogs, and I am
Okay.
babysitting my youngest son's dog, which creates a bit of a circus atmosphere. I call her the toddler, so that should give you some idea about that situation. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I finished up my Shadow Dark solo role-playing game experience.
Okay.
I did several sessions. I'm thinking about writing up some of my notes and posting them, or at least doing another thought piece about the experience. And I've moved on to another system that just came out, Call Arath, and having a great time with it.
Cool.
Having a great time with it. There's a really fun community around solo role-playing, by the way. Like if you do a little searching on Reddit or Substack or any of these other places, and as I said in that post about geek community,
Right.
just bend over backwards to help you. You know, is sort of the norm among people and
Right.
world.
I mean, I made that, in the last episode, we talked about this briefly,
Mhm.
and I made the crack about negativity online. But I mean, the reality is one of the great advantages of online access to people as in this geek community issue is you do get to connect with a lot of people from a lot of different properties and interests that you couldn't otherwise do. It is one of the great things about the internet, even if you encounter maybe more negativity than you would in person.
Yeah. And again, I think it's less cushioned by face-to-face contact with people, the online communities.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. It's like people who are jerks in their cars, but wouldn't be behaving
That's
in the
right.
same way as
That's right.
they would if they were just, sitting, at a table, talking to somebody across it.
Correct.
All right. We can't afford it, but what would be your soundtrack for this episode if we could?
So the soundtrack to this movie is not as good as the previous two, although I did have it and listened to it and I like it.
It's not James Horner.
No. I'm going to pick the silly versions right now, which is there are a couple of songs by the Yellow Jackets in the middle of this thing, which is a very 80s, what do they call it? Cool jazz band that I used to listen to when I was in college on The Wave, whatever that number was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
So I'll pick that more out of nostalgia than out of the fact that I'm likely to listen to the Yellow Jackets these days.
Okay. Since I don't want to discriminate against anyone based on their species, I'm just going to pick whale song.
Well, aren't you just woke?
I'm just such a wonderful human being.
You're a woke whelster. Or a whale wokester.
I'm something after all. Okay, so let's get into Star Trek 4.
Let's do it.
So the Star Trek movies kept coming pretty fast in the 80s.
Yes.
It's Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, and now Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. What was your first experience? Well, what was it like waiting for this movie? What did you kind of anticipate when you had seen Star Trek 3? It ended with Spock back, but the fate of the crew was uncertain. Kind of what were you looking for out of the next Star Trek movie?
I I think at this point, which is now just graduated from high school for me,
Hmm.
um, and I would have seen this movie with my wife. We had just started dating, so this is
Hmm.
you've asked me before about exposing her to the geek culture. This was one of those,
Right.
which thankfully
When did you expose yourself, Stephen?
this was yeah, we won't get into that, but this was a good introduction to geek culture that was not too geeky. I think at this point in my life, I was still in that mode where there was the fear that every Star Trek movie was the last Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
And so there was always just any anticipation or news about a new one was quite welcome.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, after, as we discussed in the last podcast, after Star Trek II, there at least was this feeling that there would be a sequel and that it would be about Spock's resurrection in some capacity. It was kind of unclear as to what this was going to be about,
Hmm.
leaving it where they left it. How about
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, I certainly felt like they were going to figure out some way to reestablish the characters in Starfleet.
Right.
I didn't think they were going to be off on a tramp freighter somewhere, schlepping
Borite.
dilithium. Oh, there we go. Okay, I was trying to think what the right substance would be. Yeah,
I don't
self-sealing stem bolts, but
self-stealing that's
that's a few
still
years
that
off.
would work.
Um,
They've replaced it at lithium with Folgers crystals, that kind of thing.
Jim always enjoys his dilithium crystals at home. Okay,
Yes.
God, we're old.
Yes.
So anyway, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so I did not expect a comedy.
Oh, no, it's true.
Yeah, the fact that they tilted so much in that direction was a bit of a surprise. I mean, of course, as we said in the last episode, there were a lot of funny lines
There
in
were.
and amusing moments in Star Trek 3, but this leaned much farther in that direction.
It's fun. I'll go ahead and say this now. Watching them back to back as I did,
Hmm.
and again, I said several times Star Trek 3 had a serious theme, and therefore the humor is just an ancillary in some ways. But in some ways, again, the rapidity of jokes and lines is almost heavier in parts of Star Trek 3 than in Star Trek 4. Now, there are some specific
Yeah,
scenes, and this movie is played for, it is a comedy. But yeah, it wasn't what I expected either, because it's not only is it not a comedy, the Enterprise, except for spoilers, it doesn't show up to the very end of the movie. There's no real antagonist, really.
no.
There's no space battle, really, unless you count the probe.
Hmm.
And while phasers are deployed, I was thinking as I was watching it, the only time that one gets fired, I think, is when Kirk locks the doctors in a closet and phasers the
Right.
lock.
Yeah.
So it's really amazingly that kind of action isn't in this movie. It was a
Right.
departure in that sense.
Well, and there wasn't even that much violence in the previous movie. I
No, there
mean, it was
wasn't.
there when it
So
was
the
there,
Klingons killing people.
it right. It was a short, sharp shock,
Yes,
to quote somebody named Floyd. But it wasn't, kind of extended action sequences.
right.
And he's like, we called it the battle scene, above the Genesis planet, but it went on only for, a couple of shots back and forth. It
That's
was
true. It's not like Rathacon.
no. So that was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, but again, like as we talked about last time, Star Trek had become, I think, more of an event, in a general popular culture
Right.
sense by this time. So, line up now to see the next Star Trek movie when it comes out on the premiere date. I think that the mass audience had been found via the previous two movies, and of course, everybody was anticipating what would happen.
Hmm.
And again, it wasn't sure you weren't sure when the first scene started exactly where it was going to go. And it did
That's true.
start the way that the two and three, there was very little implied time that passed between
Right.
those two movies. Here again, it's days,
It's 3 months
weeks,
actually,
three
which
months,
we'll
three
talk
months.
about that
Okay.
in a minute because I have thoughts.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other observations about what it was like to anticipate this movie or see it for the first time?
No, I remember the funny thing. While I distinctly remember being in the theater, really distinctly for one, two, and three, I cannot remember. I know we went to see it. I
I
think I
know.
know which theater it was. I
Yeah.
think, but I
Yeah.
don't remember actually being in the theater to see it. I don't know why that's the case.
Okay. All right. So let's get into the movie itself. So we're going to go through kind of the sequence of events in it, but not in gory detail. That's not the purpose of this podcast. There will be spoilers, obviously, of this 40-year-old approximately movie. Um,
Yeah,
but
39, I think. Yeah, a little.
yeah,
We won't get into the fact that, well, no, yeah. My 40th high school anniversary will be next year, so yeah. And this was just
okay.
after.
As I said, we're old. We are the ancient geeks, after
That's
all.
right. That's
That's
right.
right. So you said last time that you thought this movie felt more like an 80s movie than the last one did,
Yes.
despite the hair in the last movie.
Well, there was still some hair in this one, but of course they were in the 80s, so
They
that
were in the 80s, but
there's the reason this I decided this movie felt more like an 80s movie was some of the some of the blocking and some of the scenes in San Francisco felt a little more TV-ish, I guess. But the main reason was both the scene on the Enterprise aircraft carrier where they
mm,
chase Chekhov and the uh, hospital scene felt like an 80s action movie to me. It was a
yeah.
slapstick chase twice. That's the part that really felt 80s to me. And the
Yeah,
setting is
I would
part of it, but
definitely agree with both of those ways of characterizing the movie, both the TV-like nature
mhm.
of some of it, as well as the 80s action sequence
Yeah,
feeling to it.
that's why it felt more 80s to me.
Yeah. Okay, so we start with an alien probe that's headed towards Earth.
Yes.
When did that happen before?
It's hard to say.
This is sort of like, if the first Star Trek movie had been a good movie.
That's right. That's true. That's true.
And we said, when we reviewed that there was no antagonist really,
Right.
other than V'ger, but there wasn't a villain. There
Right.
wasn't, there wasn't really an action sequence at all.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
so there's a lot of similarity, I think, in
There
that.
are.
It's this is a very Roddenberry-ish sort of story.
It is.
Okay, so the crisis begins. The probe is on its way. No one knows how to communicate with it. It keeps knocking out starships and space stations and so forth along
They at
its
least have
way.
more starships in Star Trek 4 than any other movie.
Thank God they listened to you finally. You know what you need?
More ships.
More ships. Uh, there's, I think that was kind of effective the way that you saw the,
Yes.
the struggling to communicate, and then
hmm
the ships that are near the probe go dark. How did you like the probe itself?
I thought I made a note specifically. The probe looks alien, which I think is cool. It doesn't look like anything else that we've seen,
Right.
and it made that noise. So it was,
Yeah.
but it was effectively alien. I will say this. It's one of my, and I've watched this movie a lot of times, and it's a critique that you kind of, after you watch, you think about things and you think, well, like, why do they think he was a probe? There was no reason to think he was a probe. They just decided it was a probe, and they also decided he needed to be
Right.
communicated with. There's no reason in the movie given why that has anything to do with anything. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
logical leaps in this movie made by characters that really don't
Oh, like it's trying
stand
to
up to
send a
scrutiny.
message. Like,
Exactly.
how would you know that? How would you
Yeah,
know
you
that?
don't know that.
It's
Maybe it's
just
just,
going wub 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 wub. Which, by the way, I learned that was Leonard Nimoy.
yeah, I did not know that. I saw that in your notes.
Yeah, that he had. They were talking about how to design a sound for the
hmm
probe. He made that sound. They recorded it, and then through sound mixing magic, they turned it into the sound that you hear in the movie.
It works.
Yes. So why Spock couldn't communicate with it, even though
Just, Mind meld, man. Mind meld.
Mind meld. He could have mind melded with it. All right. So we established that the Federation, if not the galaxy as a whole, is a threat because of this probe of whatever it's doing. I like the probe. I thought
Oh,
it
that was
was
good. Yeah.
very alien. I also like whenever aliens that are supposed to be advanced from us, or even ones that are not, are impossible to understand.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, that they really are alien.
Yes,
Yeah, they're not people with prosthetics
exactly.
on their noses.
They have ridges on their noses and they have a ridge on their head. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yes.
so nobody knows what this thing wants, why it's coming. Meanwhile, back at Starfleet headquarters, or actually the Federation Council headquarters, the Klingons are putting the hate on Kirk.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love this scene.
Yes.
Not only is it one of the most clever, it's a super clever previously on because it recaps the previous movie without
Yes.
it feeling like a recap. And John Schuck is just great as the Klingon ambassador. He's just
Oh, he's
so
terrific.
theatrical and just, but still Klingon-y. I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, he's a that guy
Yes.
from the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
He always seemed like he was fun in whatever role he was playing.
Yes.
And he really does play this up in a very operatic sort
Yes.
of
I think he
acting
has a
style.
stage background, but he also, yeah, was on TV a lot. In fact, I think, including in Star Trek 2, 3, excuse me, Star Trek 3 and 4, you can see Harv Bennett's TV roots because there's a lot of
Hmm.
TV actors that show up in this stuff.
Yeah.
But do you remember? I should have looked it up. There was a short-lived cop show where he played an android or something called
Yes.
Yo-Yo. That was,
Yes,
yeah,
I do remember that.
it
Yeah.
was wacky. I can't remember the full name of the show.
Yeah, the air it's like from the 60s through, I don't know, like the 80s. There are all these shows with really daffy premises, you know,
Yes.
that whatever I guess the psychedelic of choice was in a particular decade. It was kind of in the writer's room, passed around quite a lot.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we get that quick reestablishment of where we are in the storyline via the Klingon ambassador, and then we cut back to the Enterprise crew on Vulcan, and they've been fixing up the Klingon bird of prey, nicknaming it the HMS Bounty. I love that touch.
Yes, it is great.
That was really cool.
Um,
Um,
the and there's a captain's log, and that's what he says they've been there for 3 months.
oh, that's right. Yes, thank
And
you.
it's one of the things, and this is not the first time I thought this, where that part makes no sense at all.
Mhm.
Like you engage in mutiny, you're on a Federation planet. It's not like you're just gonna hang out for 3 months and
Right.
they're not gonna come get you, or whatever. Plus, Kirk has not changed clothes from the first movie.
Well, he didn't bring a change of clothes.
They don't have clothiers on Vulcan. Chekhov has a new outfit, which is good because the one he had in Star Trek 3 was
The
terrible.
pink outfit
Yes. Now I think
was
Sulu
unfortunate.
and McCoy are in their same clothes, but Chekhov had the good sense to go find some used human clothing store on Vulcan and get a new outfit. That and then and there's also the part where Savick has this scene with Kirk when she's leaving about how David died valiantly. You've waited 3 months to tell the man this? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm nitpicking, but all that drives me a little crazy.
Right. So if you're on a planet like Vulcan, where the Vulcans are the majority population,
Yes.
but don't they have like a foreigners section?
They would have to. I mean, it is one of the
Yeah.
founding. This is, and again, this part of it's about where we are in the development of this show, and but it's part of the founding Federation of Planets. There have to be other humans on Vulcan,
Right.
and there have to be a Federation office on Vulcan. There should be
Right.
There should be. Of course, another thing that I realized watching Star Trek lately is Starfleet in some ways doesn't make total sense. I know that the Star Trek Enterprise establishes that Starfleet predates the Federation,
Mhm.
but Starfleet is way too human for it to
Oh,
be
yes.
way too human. I know they throw some bones to this. There's an episode of the immunity factor in TOS where there's a whole ship full of Vulcans, and but still, there should be a whole lot more non-humans on these ships than there are. So there's some weird. I mean, I know again, this is the production value or the budgets and all this kind of stuff because you really couldn't afford to do it that way. Um, but yeah, I
Mhm.
mean that part. If it had been a few days, even a week, it would have made
Yeah.
more sense to me that they hadn't been apprehended yet.
Boy,
Um,
now this is getting under my skin that it took so
yeah,
long. Like no group of Starfleet officers
yeah,
and MPs
yeah,
came to
yeah.
arrest
Yeah, they
them,
come to get them. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or even debrief them about what had
Exactly. Come
happened.
debrief them, do something, especially given what had happened. The Klingons obviously are upset because they're over the Federation Council yelling at them. So it's been
Yeah.
a long, and then the Genesis planet's blown up now. Grissom's been lost, and they just let them sit there for 3 months. It makes no sense whatsoever.
So what do you do for fun if you're not a Vulcan and you have to spend 3 months on Vulcan?
Learn how to make plomeek soup? I don't know.
Go volunteer at the Salat Animal Shelter.
That's right. Play bells and gongs. I don't know. It's a great question.
All right. Yeah. You learn how to swing that axe
It
on a pole that
the
I don't know,
Lirpa.
it's
Isn't
not
that
really
Lirpa?
yeah, it's anyway, whatever it's called. It's sort of a halberd, but it's kind of not.
No, I mean, the funny thing is, if it weren't for that one line of dialogue,
Mhm.
you could infer that it was much shorter, and that'd have been fine.
Yes. Yeah, they didn't need to.
That's a mistake. And because these things bother me, the show was Holmes and Yo-Yo,
Oh,
and
thank
John
you.
Shuck was Yo-Yo, and he
Was
had like
Yo-Yo.
it was ridiculous.
Okay.
It only lasted 13 episodes, so that may tell
Yeah.
you something.
All right.
Anyway,
Well,
back.
do we have another 5 minutes of objections to
No,
the 3 month period, or
I'm
can
good
we
now.
move on?
I'm good
Okay.
now.
You feel better?
Well,
Okay.
if only I were in charge. Anyway,
All
yeah,
right.
it's so good.
All right. So the crews decided to turn themselves in.
Yes,
Um, It seems like the right thing to do,
yes,
obviously. Spock is still reintegrating
yes.
himself.
I do like
And
the test scene with the
oh, that's
computer.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel?
Yes.
That was a nice thread that extended to the
Hmm.
end of the
Yes.
movie. We see Amanda, his
Yes, that was
mom.
great. That was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. The same actress, Jane Wyatt, who
Yes.
who played it on Journey, played her on Journey to Babel.
Yes.
Um, and they say farewell to Savik,
Yes.
which when I remember watching it, thinking that was kind of
I mean,
just like shuffling somebody who was a minor character off screen. It kind of
yes,
felt a
that's
little
exactly.
forced. I guess there was some talk about her being pregnant with
Yes.
Spock's child.
In fact, I meant to look it up. I had listened earlier this year, a series of Star Trek podcasts did what they called the Star Trek Pod Crawl
Hmm.
to raise money for science education.
Hmm.
And different Star Trek podcasts did different movies.
Yes.
And the one that did Star Trek 4, and I forget the name of the podcast right now, is one that always has interviews with people from the film. And Robin Curtis came on and she talked about there may have been a scene filmed. There was one written at least
Hmm.
that confirmed this. So that makes it make a little more sense. Otherwise, it makes no sense because again, she's the survivor of this doomed expedition. I think Starfleet would want to talk to her. It
Yes.
just doesn't make... Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't one of the conspirators.
No, 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 no. Now maybe she went to the Starfleet field office on Vulcan, and that's what was going on. But it just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so we still don't understand this whole 3 months
No, let's just assume that
time.
Kirk had, had some. He really meant 3 weeks or 3 days, and it just got messed up in his log.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, he's getting on in years. He
It's been a
doesn't look
rough.
it, but
It's been a rough couple of weeks for Jim Kirk before the 3 months.
exactly, exactly.
Speaking of
Okay,
Journey to Babel, by the way, to semi-redeem myself for insisting that DC Fontana wrote Mock Time, she wrote
right.
Journey to Babel. So I knew that she
Yes.
was a key contributor to Vulcan mythology.
Oh
I just
yeah.
got the episode wrong. And she wrote Yesteryear, so I'm not
And she
totally
wrote a lot of the
crazy.
other episodes where you learn things about the Vulcans.
Yeah,
So,
but You were right. I was wrong.
It's okay. You don't have to prostrate yourself. That's fine. Or since we're old, prostate yourself.
Well, that thought, yeah.
Okay.
Any rate,
All right. So they're ready to roll, and they mount up in the Bounty, and they take off for Earth, and they're shocked to find out that there really is no escort for
yes,
them, no
yes. Lots
communications.
of chatter.
Yeah.
Now the bridge has been totally reconfigured. Kirk can't get a new outfit, but the bridge is entirely different. So maybe that's why they were there for 3 months.
Yeah. What was that, by the way?
I think it was, I think they rebuilt. It was better to film from.
Okay.
I don't know why. It would have been more fun, I think, to have the old school Klingon with
Yeah, I
Kirk on the
noticed.
big chair, but it's a
Yeah.
totally different set.
Yeah. Yeah. And we get some of like the scenes between McCoy and Spock
Yes,
that are a beat they keep hitting on throughout the movie, and it's
yes,
not the typical sparring between the two of them. It's really a very friendly sort of exchange,
yes.
especially on McCoy's part.
Hmm.
How did you like those?
Well, I mean, I would say that DeForest Kelly's hamming up a bit in those scenes,
Yeah.
but they're fun. I do like the part where he wants to talk about, death, and Spock says, "Well, we don't have a common frame of reference," and he says, "Well, I've got to die first to talk about the afterlife."
And
That's pretty good.
Spock kind of just looks at him like, "Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying
yeah,
exactly."
yes.
All right. So despite the garbled communications with Starfleet headquarters, they find out what's happening with the probe,
Hmm.
and yeah, they're warned off because the president of the Federation sent out this message saying, "Don't come near Earth." The probe is basically destroying the planet. Save yourselves. We don't know what to do here. This
That's right.
president was a kind of a weak guy,
Yeah,
don't you think?
he wasn't the best.
He always seemed like a little befuddled, what was going on around him, and he didn't kind of step in and take charge.
See, my political scientist thinks that the Federation Council has a weak executive, and that he's just having to placate the
What
members
would
of the
what would
council.
Juan Lintz have to say about the the constitutional structure of the Federation of Planets?
Yeah.
That's a reference I think two of our listeners might get.
Possibly. Oh, these days he's more relevant than he used to be.
Oh, no,
Anyway,
no
we won't
kidding.
go there. We won't go
Anyway,
that. Yeah, yeah.
anyway, anyway. So they find out uh, that the Federation or Earth specifically is in trouble. The crew of the Bounty, the Enterprise crew, does an analysis of the sounds that the probe are making and discover it's whale song.
Them Enterprise guys are smart.
They are smarter than anybody on planet Earth. Yeah.
So-
Oh, to your point about aliens, there are a few aliens. They're not only like in the Federation Council scenes, there are a lot of aliens,
they do better
but
on
but
those things.
also in the Starfleet headquarters
Yes.
scenes.
And
It-
they show a few new aliens actually.
right,
The Saratoga has the mustache growly guy.
right.
I forget what race that is. He's that race is the president in Star Trek 6.
Yes.
And then there's some guy in Federation HQ that has an oblong head, and I don't know what he was supposed to be.
Well,
And then
so that actor actually, I forget his name, unfortunately. Sorry, but he's sort of familiar if you've ever seen the film The Hills Have Eyes.
mm, I've
He's an
not.
unusual looking person. And really, I think they just sort of exaggerated a lot of his facial features for Star Trek 4.
Maybe Michael
Oh,
Berryman, perhaps.
maybe. God, you're quick on the draw.
Yeah, that's him. I've seen him in a variety of things,
Yeah.
but yeah, the hills have eyes. Apparently, he was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Who knew?
Oh, that's right. He was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Another
But
another that guy.
yes, exactly.
All right. So that having figured out that the probe is trying to communicate with whales and whales are extinct, they of
Yes,
course leap to the obvious solution.
time warp.
Time warp, go back in time. Which in the original show, when that happened, the chronometer actually rolled backwards. It
Yeah,
banged backwards.
in the naked time it did.
Yes, it did. So maybe that was happening on the Klingon displays. I don't know. But anyway, it involves slingshotting around the sun,
Yes.
which they had established in the Naked Time was the way to do time travel.
Yeah, that one, and also when they went back to the 60s, that was an
Yeah,
accident.
tomorrow is yesterday,
Yeah, I think that's right. And then
and also the one with Gary Seven.
yes, that was on purpose. That one was.
Yeah, they meant to do it for a
Yes.
change.
Yes.
And why was it always the 1960s they went back to?
It's a
Strange.
mystery, isn't it?
Must be some sort of nexus of probability
But
that
well,
sucked them in.
and then somehow Voyager was back to the 90s. So it's kind of wild.
It is. Huh. Huh. Like this is sort of rolling window for
Yeah,
time
yeah.
travel.
It's the Overton window of Star Trek time travel.
There we go. There we go. Now we have it explained.
There we go.
We can stop the episode right here. Okay. They what that it seemed pretty fast that they came up with the
Oh yeah.
solution here.
This is again, I like this movie, but it's a great example of these wild leaps of logic and
Yes,
certitude. We're certain it's a probe. We're certain it wants to talk to somebody. If we just talk to it, it would stop doing its thing.
right.
We're certain it wants to talk to whales. And we're certain that we can travel back in time and get some whales, and that'll solve the problem. That's, I guess on the first watch, you just kind of roll with it. But, it's the same
Hmm.
reason why I keep asking myself, why didn't they count the planets in the CD Alpha system? I just, at this point, it bothers me. But, that's all right.
Okay, but I do understand why in later Trek the Time Authority, I forgot
Yes.
the exact name for it, the
Yeah,
Time Police.
no, yeah, yeah. Time Variance
Yeah,
Authority, that's Marvel Comics.
right. But
Uh,
anyway, the Time Police to
Temporal
say
Affairs, maybe?
temporal affairs, just to say, okay, knock it off. No more
Yeah,
time travel.
yeah. Oh no, that's in the Trials and Tribulations episode where they're like Kirk, that
Yeah,
guy. It's
that guy.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then later it's Janeway. They roll their eyes at
Yes,
because of
that's
the yeah.
right.
Okay, back to the movie. So they do the time travel. There's a trippy psychedelic time travel scene, and they arrive at Earth
Yes.
in the 20th century.
Yes. And yeah, I must admit, of the things in the movie that I don't like, the milk bath time travel scene was not my favorite.
Yeah,
It was something different though.
right.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Temporal Investigations.
there we go. Thank you. Again, you're quick on the draw. Good for you. And there they go straight to San Francisco.
Yes.
So there are few movies that are as in love with San Francisco as this one, I would
No,
say.
that's true. Although it gets
Yeah.
the geography wrong constantly.
Yeah, but I would also say that as somebody who lived in the Bay Area, for a while after seeing this movie, I
Yes.
mean, it's fun to rewatch it and see San Francisco in the 1980s.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing, and I had, even though I, as you know, lived in Southern California, I
Hmm.
never went to the Bay Area when I lived there. Um, but I've been twice relatively recently. Once almost
Hmm.
exactly 10 years ago, as Facebook reminded me the other day. And then Sharon and I went a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So yeah, it's funny, like the scene where they're walking along, is that the Presidio there,
Hmm.
with the bridge in the background? It looks the same now, quite frankly, than it did
Yes.
then.
Oh, those homes that you see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
like they're in
even
the parking lot for the, cetacean center.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And then the one place I had, well, no, because we got married after established we watched the movie when we were dating. We also our honeymoon we did go up the coast. We just didn't get all the way to San Francisco, and so we went to Monterey with the aquarium there, which is where they filmed the Cetacean Institute.
Hmm.
So that one scene where they're outside, which is partially
Right.
green screened, is Monterey, California. That so it is fun that I recognize a lot of places in the film.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Even
walking
this.
around, walking around downtown
Yeah,
and
that doesn't look that different. I've been right there
yeah,
within the last 3 years, and it doesn't look that. I mean, the cars look different, but the buildings a little different, but not a ton.
right, right. Okay, so they land in Golden Gate Park because where else would you land
Yes,
if you're going to San Francisco? And
parking is
uh,
terrible. So,
parking at the park.
in general, parking in California and San
Oh,
Francisco is
yes.
not easy. So, of course, you got to
Oh,
park in the
so
park.
here's an aside about parking. So there was a Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall movie called Dark Passage,
Okay.
and in it, Humphrey Bogart has escaped from prison. I think he's an innocent, really an innocent man who was wrongly accused. Anyway, and he's you don't see his face originally. There's a whole other subplot about him getting plastic surgery and then looking like Humphrey Bogart. Be that as it may, I don't want an aside from an aside. Uh, Lauren Bacall picks them up and they have to go into San Francisco. I think she lives there. And they're going across the Golden Gate Bridge, and there's one, count them, one police officer stopping traffic to find the escaped convict. So that's how many cars are there. And then when they are able to finagle their way past the police officer, they arrive at her apartment and they just pull up in front of it and park. Like,
Yeah, well, that's kind of like there only being one starship to guard the Earth in Star Trek One.
there are like five cars at San Francisco in this movie.
We
Incredible.
we need a sound cue. I'm
Yeah.
realizing when we start reminiscing about things. Hey, remember when we went to San Francisco? It was great. Or
We should do the
ancient
Wayne's
geeks.
World. All
Anyway,
right. That's been
back to the
copyrighted,
film.
I'm sure. So we can't do
Oh
too
yeah,
much of that, or else we're going to
back
be
to the
in
film.
deep guano. All right. So back to the movie. They decide to break up into teams
Hmm.
to pursue different missions. So there's finding the whales, which they figure out there are these
Hmm.
whales at the cetacean museum. There's replenishing the whatever of the
To
wackatrons.
recrystallize the dilithium crystals using, yeah, wackatrons. Um,
Yes. Yeah, that they need to get from a nuclear reactor, which they quickly figure out the best place to go is a nuclear powered naval vessel.
a nuclear
Um,
vessel.
a nuclear vessel. So they have to get the plating to put in to build the tank
Hmm.
on the bird of prey, and then also get a helicopter to transport all of this. So
Yes.
yeah, so then everybody goes their separate ways, and then the middle part of the movie is juggling these different plot lines.
And at that point, when they're in downtown San Francisco, that is when the one of the Yellow Jacket songs that I mentioned at the top of the show plays.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. And you can see like the running jokes, here about
Yes.
like they come out of the bird of prey, don't forget where we parked.
Yes.
There it's like, okay, you break up, you look like a gaggle of cadets, or forget
Hmm.
what Shatner's
Cadet
line
Review.
was. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so yeah, we know the tone is very jokey at
Yes.
this point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the best examples of this movie not taking itself as seriously as Star Trek normally does is when McCoy and Scotty give the dude the formula for transparent aluminum.
Hmm.
And the way around the whole, aren't we messing with the timeline routine is when Scotty goes, well, how did we know he didn't invent the thing? And Bones is like, yeah.
Yes. I prefer to describe that guy as aluminum steel because then I can make a joke about another 80s show, Remington Steel. This is his dorky brother, Aluminum.
Aluminum steel. There you go.
Okay. But the main story is really about Kirk and Spock
Yes.
and the whale biologist or whale behaviorist
Hmm.
whom they befriend. Uh, at first she thinks that they're completely crazy. Of course, Spock jumps into the tank to mind meld with one of the whales. Very funny
With
scene there.
with Gracie, yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
he's singing to that man.
And then, there's this, kind of back and forth between mostly Shatner and Jillian, played by Catherine Hicks. In different moments in the movie. Okay, well, who are
Yes.
you guys really?
Yeah.
She catches that they were talking about the extinction of the whales in the past tense
Hmm.
when they were asking questions at the Cetacean Museum.
Well, and it we need to comment on the running joke about colorful metaphors, right?
Right.
Because
Yes.
Spock asks, so again, setting the tone for the film, when they're on the bus and
Right.
Spock comments on how Kirk's language has changed,
Hmm.
and he talks about the literature from the time, And he talks about the collective works of Harold Robbins and Jacqueline Suzanne, and Spock goes, "Ah, the
Yeah, the
giants."
giants. Well, that's also with the famous scene about nerve pinching the punk.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And
Yes, which
then,
which someone is shaking their fist listening to this, like, why haven't you
that's right.
mentioned that already? Well, there you go. We're doing fan service now,
That's
as
right.
much as I decried it in a previous episode.
That's right. And then I do think, in terms of the humor of the movie, the best scene is when they're on the pickup truck,
Oh yeah,
you know, and
Spock can't lie.
Spock can't lie. Do you like Italian?
No.
No.
Yes. No.
That's
Yes. No. Right. So you were at Berkeley? No, I never attended Berkeley.
that's right. Uh, yes.
Okay. And she's not convinced, right? She
No.
still thinks that there's something really fishy about these two guys. Of course, she's not imagining that they're from the future.
Now, is that like your Star Trek pun that I called out the other episode, or is that an accidental one?
That was an accidental one.
Okay.
That was. Okay.
Whales
And
are mammals, Tom. They're not fish.
I know, I know. So there's not really kind of a love interest in this movie either.
There's like these weird semi hints about it that she seems a little enamored toward the very very end of the movie, but it's not. It's never like that essay we referred to in regards to the motion picture and Ilea and what Roddenberry put in
Hmm.
the novelization, where Kirk thought about if he could like maybe he
Oh
could have
God.
sex with Ilea. So yeah, there really isn't, even in a lot of TOS episodes. It's not like he's trying to seduce her. It's like he's desperate. He knows what he needs to get done.
Right,
In fact, one of my only other critiques of the movie is when she asked to see the starship, just show her the ship. You need the
right.
whales. You're trying to save the planet Earth. Show her the ship.
Show her the ship. But
Um,
to go back to Kirk though, like in
mhm,
Star Trek, the original series, I
mhm.
mean, he was constantly in the middle of some
Yes,
incredibly important mission, and he was making time with some woman.
yes,
And here he didn't. He was
he did
really
not.
he was really kind of on the straight and narrow. I've got to convince this person that
Yes,
we're going to help her with the whales, and it's all to the good, both for the past and the future. I see signs of growth in James T. Kirk
yes.
in this.
And I did like that scene. And apart from the not showing her the ship part, it is that part of any story like this, because it's not the only time there's a time travel or a space story or somebody has a secret they can't share. Once he gets the call on the communicator, which is totally out of range of any technology from 1986,
Hmm.
he basically has to fess up. He's got no choice. And he tries, and it doesn't really work because how could it work?
Yes.
But but I kind of like the fact that all right, fine, the truth. And that's actually the best scene with Catherine Hicks, I thought, who, as you and I
Hmm.
discussed offline, I thought her acting was just okay in this movie. But
Right.
I did like that scene.
Yeah. She was a TV actress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as we talked about offline, she mugged a lot to the
She did.
camera
She
and
did.
just really kind of just overplayed some of her lines. And anyway,
Agreed.
yeah, you could see maybe that Nimoy thought a lot of that was cute, and let
Mm,
it run a little
right. Right.
too far. Gave her a little too much rope, but it was jarring on the rewatch for me. I
I,
just
I agree.
yeah.
I meant to mention this a minute ago, but again, I like it so much. There's two other sort of Spockisms. One where
Hmm.
he's crawled out of the tank, and she's like, "What the hell were you doing?" Attempting the hell to communicate, he says. I love that
Yeah.
line. But I especially like in the truck where Kirk says, "You're not catching us at our best," and Spock says,
Yeah.
"This that much is certain." uh,
Yeah. Okay. I also, by the way, thought it was very funny. Like she kept dropping them off in the park. Oh,
yes,
this is where you are.
that's right.
This
That's
is
right.
where you live. Anyway, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think the part with Sulu is probably the smallest
It was.
of the storylines. You just see him talk up a guy with the helicopter, and I guess kind of reading about the movie, he had injured himself
Oh, I did
And
not know that.
yeah, and originally the idea was he was going to, when the other guy had walked off from the helicopter, jump in and steal the helicopter. But thank God he didn't, because that would have been one of those incredibly unrealistic. I mean, already it's a little weird that you can get a helicopter and fly around San Francisco, but just stealing one and then
Yeah.
not have every
I
law
know
enforcement agency down on you.
the scene where they're at the big wall with the Yellow Pages ad,
Yeah,
and a kid comes running out of the thing.
yeah.
There's a scene that was filmed apparently where that is all established to be Sulu's ancestors,
Hmm.
but that got
Yeah.
cut.
I don't know that that would have added a lot
No,
necessarily.
that just
Yeah.
to the point of the fact that Sulu really has in some ways the smallest part in the film. I think some of his stuff got cut.
Yeah. But he had, I think both in this and the previous movie, very relaxed
Yeah,
acting
I
style.
agree. I do
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. I mean, these are all people you want to hang out with if you had the
Yeah, of
chance.
of course.
Yeah. So we also already mentioned getting the plexiglass panels or
Hmm.
whatever the material was. And, the very funny scene about Scotty talking to the
Yes.
computer. Yeah.
Classic
A
computer.
keyboard. How
How
quaint.
quaint. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so that's kind of act two, and then the rest of the movie is kind of the race to save the whales and
Yes.
thereby saving planet Earth. And that's initiated by the the Cetacean Institute lying to Jillian
Jillian. Yeah.
about when the whales were going to be taken, and
So speaking of 80s
yeah,
hair,
yes,
her colleague Bob, I swear to
yes,
God, he's a clone of Monty Hall
kind of, yeah,
from
kind
Let's
of,
Make a Deal fame.
yes,
Look up Monty Hall and he's younger. It's that guy. It's
yeah.
hilarious. Anyway, that
Uh,
amused me at least.
Oh, and another little trivia about it. I guess she actually slapped him
Ah,
for
yeah.
real. Yeah, slapped the actor for real.
Hmm.
So that's a very genuine response on his part. Anyway, so she decides what am I going to do?
Hmm.
Maybe these weirdos have some
Hmm.
way of helping. They keep
Desperation.
arguing that they do, and so she comes out to Golden Gate Park, bumps into the invisible ship. Um, and another good line, hello, Alice, welcome to Wonderland.
Yes,
They
yes,
take her on board,
yes.
Anyway, so at this point, then, the problem they have is that Chekhov has been injured.
Hmm.
He was found while trying to get the wackatrons from the reactor, and they have to go save him from 20th century medicine before
Yes.
they can continue on their mission. And that was a fun scene. I mean,
It was
this
fun. Yeah,
yeah,
it was fun. It was fun. The whole Cold War of it all was fun, which
yes,
is, yeah, they didn't think that one through. Let's send the Russian to the submarine to the military base.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, and the hospital scene was good. And of course,
Mhm.
it's a little silly, but the whole take this pill, I grow a new
Right.
kidney. It works. It works. Yes. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean there was a little bit of maybe too much slapstick and kind of
Yes.
being running around the
Yes.
corridors.
Yes. 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 There was.
Yeah, I mean, why didn't somebody pull an alarm? And anyway, we're nitpicking again. Um, So then they're able to get Chekhov. They get back on the bird of prey. They fly to Alaska. They stop the whalers from
Hmm.
from killing George and Gracie the whales. That was a good scene too. That
It
the
was.
the harpoon just goes thump in
Yes.
midair, and then the bird of prey decloaks.
But to prove how much of a hurry they were in, Chekhov is still in his scrubs, in his hospital gown, while he's flying the
Yes,
ship.
I noticed that this time.
I didn't
Yes,
notice it before
and
either.
it was like it's because you only see it for a split second,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but a couple of times you just see him in the background. Like, oh, okay. Um, they beam the whales aboard.
Hmm.
They travel back through time. This all unrolls pretty quickly now. They crash into San Francisco Bay.
Yes,
That was a little convenient, but again, we're nitpicking.
yes. Yeah, it was. a little convenient. And I'll be honest, the only time the movie starts to drag a little bit for me right through some of this stuff, even though it is happening
Yeah.
pretty quickly, I didn't necessarily need we've crashed and we have to Kirk swim down and get the whales out. I could live without that, to be honest.
Right.
It
Because at
goes a
this
little too
point, you
long.
know where it's going to
That's
happen.
right.
So there's
That's
no
right.
real tension.
That's right.
Yeah. I think like the tension early in a movie is always going to be much greater if it's a movie where you know pretty much what the ending is going to be. And they're not
Right.
in, and Kirk isn't going to die swimming
No.
around underwater. Um, the whales communicate with the probe, and the probe withdraws.
Yes.
All is good. The
Yeah.
whales are pretty great. I have to say, the whale models that they
The whale
use,
male
they're practical effects.
whale models. I keep want to say male models.
Yes.
The whale models are great. Although I will say, and I did write in my notes, lots of stock whale footage at the end there.
Oh,
Like, oh
true.
look, hey look, them more like we're in the SF Bay and it looks like they're in open sea.
Right.
It kind of I
It's not
get
that big.
nitpicking.
Nitpicking, but apparently
Um,
the whale models were so good that people were worried
mm,
that the makers of the movie got too close to actual whales in the
I see.
wild.
It was a good
Yeah.
looking. Yeah, those models are good.
Yeah.
I agree.
And then we find out what's going to happen to the crew of the Enterprise, which has been the question now for, a couple of movies.
Correct.
And they're mostly forgiven, particularly since they just saved Earth and probably, the Federation as a whole. But Kirk, as the commanding officer, is demoted, which is
Yes.
really not a demotion because he
No.
belongs in the captain's chair,
It's
by
the best
God.
punishment ever.
Yes, best punishment ever.
And yeah, and to narrow in on something that I talked about last podcast and I've talked about in a previous movie podcast about Star Trek. I mean, in some ways, this is Kirk's journey from the motion picture completed, right?
Yes,
He's done the Admiral thing and fought to get his ship back, and then did the Admiral thing again. But clearly, this is where he belongs. It's also why to foreshadow something I think I mentioned in the previous discussion in Star Trek 2, maybe Star Trek 1. But if we ever get to talk about generations, I think that's one of the things that makes generations a problem. That Kirk's
hmm
fantasy life should be on the Enterprise.
yes,
And this movie makes that case, as do the previous two movies. Now, in some ways, they're getting off light, but they also, it all balances out just fine.
hmm
And of course, the end scene is they don't know what ship they're going to get
right. They think they're
until,
going to get the Excelsior
yes.
until they fly in their little pod over the Excelsior, and then they see the new Enterprise,
Although that
1701A.
the pod thing has the same problem that you didn't like from the motion picture, where they
Yeah, I
have
know.
the projection on
Yeah, it doesn't work
on the
very
exterior of the little
well.
pod thing. No, it
It
doesn't.
looks like a projection.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and in movies where otherwise the practical effects are pretty good.
Yes,
Okay. There's also a nice scene between Spock and Sarek at the
there
end,
is.
where he commends him on having friends of good character. Um, anyway, and the whole arc that started with Wrath of Khan now
Hmm.
comes to a conclusion.
Comes to conclusion.
Because did you feel satisfied with this movie when it
I did.
when it ended
I
in the
really,
first
really
time?
did.
Yeah,
I did.
me too. Yeah. Because it felt like, even though these movies were years apart, it felt like, man, we've been through a lot.
Yes,
And they might have not stuck the landing that
correct.
well. Yeah. And it felt a little forced, it was like a
Well,
little
sure.
too convenient that we go reset everything and everybody back to where they
Yes.
were at the beginning, but it didn't offend too badly.
Well, I mean, reset really back to the TV show, really.
Right. Yes.
Um, and there is a certain level of why are all these people on this ship together? Because they're all senior officers now. They're just
Yes.
three captains on the Enterprise. Um,
Well, that is the one odd thing about Star Trek, though, at this point. It's
yeah,
like these people never seem to advance either in their careers or their lives.
right. That's right.
And I think that was a problem with Next Generation too,
Hmm.
but I thought eventually did a better job with it. Like at least people got married or Worf went to go serve someplace else or
Right.
whatever it
Well, at
wasn't
least
exactly the same.
TNG is a 7 year period, right? I mean, this is at
Yeah.
this point a 20 plus year period. Although there is the fact that Sulu does have a daughter at some point. Sulu does become a captain, but it takes a long time.
Yeah.
And Chekhov was on the Reliant in 2 movies ago, but
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But any slight movement,
yeah,
is kind of like pushed instantly back.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Um, at this point, did you need more Star Trek movies, or if they had stopped here, would you have been happy?
I would say that it would have been acceptable in the sense that there wasn't any specific narrative need to continue the story.
Hmm.
But as I've established on the podcast, I'm a sucker for more Star Trek, so I would have been disappointed there wasn't more Star Trek.
Hmm.
Not that Star Trek 5 necessarily made me happy
Okay.
to foreshadow that conversation.
No.
Um, but you know, I I would say that it, unlike if they'd stopped, you could have kind of stopped after two.
Hmm.
I mean, you could have stopped, I guess, after all of these three movies. You could have stopped, I suppose.
Right.
But I feel like this was did satisfy, if necessary, that they were on new adventures and we just didn't get to see them. That worked better than
Hmm.
stopping at the previous two movies.
Yeah, I think
How
they could
about
have.
you?
I think they could have stopped it too, and obviously then, it was then the bitter pill of never seeing Spock again.
Hmm.
I felt like it would be harder to stop after three. Things were a
Hmm.
lot more ambiguous
That's
there,
true. That's very true.
and then here, yeah, definitely they could have stopped, and I would have probably been okay with it. I don't know. I didn't feel like a burning need for more, but of course it's the logic of Hollywood. Once something becomes popular,
Right. And this
you keep
one,
it going until it runs out of gas.
this one did pretty well at the box office. So yeah, I mean, to foreshadow, I mean, there's two more TOS movies. Five is not that
Mhm.
great. It has its moments, but it's not that great. And six is pretty good, actually.
Yeah, pretty good. Well, Nicholas Meyer comes back
Exactly.
to do it, and anyway, okay. A couple of other factoids are worth mentioning. Uh, Eddie Murphy was originally
I know.
considered to be in this movie. I
Yes,
thought I thought that would have been tilting in the comedic direction way too far.
I agree.
I'm very glad that they didn't do that. Roddenberry is listed as an executive consultant,
Hmm.
and I it's hard to see what his input really was. I mean, this and the previous movie and the one previous to that all do not seem like Roddenberry movies at all.
No,
Um,
I think, and I'm looking because I'm curious.
yeah,
My guess is he's listed on everything until he dies in some capacity.
probably. I mean, he has input certainly, but it this this definitely felt like somebody else's movie.
Yeah.
Even
Oh yeah.
even though thematically the probe and the whales, the environmentalist message and so forth, I think
Oh
that
yeah. We didn't
pretty
even
much
mention.
jives with his worldview. But
We didn't really mention that. I mean, I made it maybe it's last episode, but I'll say it. I mentioned this is a woke movie, which I think is funny in the sense that it's colloquially used. It's got a political message, and the political message is pro-environmental.
it's save the
And
whales, right?
it's Save the
We're,
Whales,
we're,
which
we're going
is,
to we're going to destroy ourselves if we continue to
yeah,
act in the way we are
exactly,
on planet Earth. There's only one
exactly.
planet.
That's the
Right. And is there ugly backlash to that on the
there is,
IMDb user reviews. It's a little sad.
yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I do not suggest people read those.
So yeah, just checking IMDb because I'm curious. Was curious. He's listed as executive consultant for Star Trek 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Mhm.
And also in Star Trek 5, he's listed as executive producer, which is interesting. But
Hmm.
at least according to IMDb.
And this is where I certainly, as a Star Trek fan, was happy that the torch had been passed.
Yes.
And in a way, when Roddenberry seized the reins again for the first season of Generation,
Hmm.
I was disappointed. I was
Yes.
happy with what the movies had done.
No, I think that, I mean, Harv Bennett really is responsible, I guess, for all the movies as the main producer from two through six. And Nicholas Meyer's influence, as you point out, is significant in two and in six.
Hmm.
Did he play some role in three and four? I can't remember.
I don't recall.
Um,
He
but
might have helped with this early draft
story,
of the script or
maybe, I
something.
think
Yeah,
maybe for
yeah.
four, that
Hmm.
seems maybe right, but I could be wrong about that. Um, but Roddenberry, and we've sort of danced around this before. Roddenberry deserves a lot of credit, obviously, for creating Star Trek and a variety of other contributions to the show. But I think his centrality, when he has too much influence, it's often a negative influence, especially after TOS is off the air. The motion picture is very clearly Roddenberry's vision, and
Yes.
and I think the places it suffers from is from Roddenberry's vision. And yeah, we'll talk about TNG at some point, but his and I love Star Trek: The Next Generation, but the first season, especially when I rewatched it a couple of years ago in its entirety, it's not very good, really.
No.
And some of it's Roddenberry, and some of it's this whole idea that we don't have interpersonal conflict in the 24th century. Well, there's your drama, Gene. Good job,
Hmm.
because human interaction is kind of central to drama, right?
Right. Right.
And so,
Well,
anyway,
it's a lot like George Lucas, right?
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah. There's
he
some definite
benefited from
similarities,
having collaborators, and when he became George Lucas,
yes.
uh, all caps, yeah, with especially with the first, the prequel trilogy, and there were fewer people who were kind of effectively collaborating with him. That there wasn't as much of a balance of creativity or so
Right.
forth among all the people there. The movie suffered. And this is also I'm realizing this is sort of against the ethos of Star Trek, right? Which
Right.
is, we like the crew because it's a crew
Right.
and they all bring something different to it. And kind of the troika of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy and the different philosophical viewpoints in that and the different temperaments
Hmm.
in those relationships and so forth made them successful as characters.
Exactly. Exactly. And by the way, yes, Nick Myers did have a writing credit on Star Trek 4.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So let's wrap up. Any other thoughts on the movie before we get to our
I
rating?
The only thing that I don't think I've mentioned, because I've mentioned my other points that I had written down here, is that it does show part of Spock. The Spock's growth through the movie is interesting and I think noteworthy given Star Trek 3 and then even going back to the way he was in Star Trek 1.
Mhm.
And I think they do a good job in the movie of him being somewhat addled at the beginning, but by the end he's kind of gotten it all together, including some scenes where he reconciles some of his human side during the mission
Right.
in terms of having to guess or to,
Hmm.
the impact of the Earth being destroyed and all this kind of stuff. I thought that was well done and works well enough that the way he is at the end with Sarek makes sense,
Hmm.
as you point out, the connection of the how do you feel from the computer at the beginning to tell mother I feel fine at the end.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for remembering that. Okay. So we have a five dimensional
Oh yes.
scale here for doing evaluations of Trek movies or TV shows that we rolled out in the last episode. We have big ideas from a science fiction standpoint or big philosophical ideas. We have fun factor, that's pretty self-explanatory. The feels, how much does this kind of pluck it at our heartstrings? Filmmaking, which includes not just special effects, but also direction, acting, and writing, and Trekness, just how strongly does this reverberate with whatever the essence of Trek is. So, big ideas. How did you rate this on a 1 to 10 scale?
I gave it an 8
So, what were the big
because
ideas for
so the
you?
big ideas are the probe itself, which is some alien presence, the significance of environmental degradation and destruction, and the fact that time travel to solve this problem is a pretty big idea. So that was what I gave it an 8 for. How about
Okay.
yourself?
I gave it a 6.
Okay.
Mostly guided by the alien probe,
Right.
and the idea that humans had been destroying themselves
Hmm.
without knowing. I'm going to bump that up to a 7. So I think I underscored that.
I mean, 8 may be a little high, but
Okay, fun factor.
I gave it a 10.
I gave it a 9. There were some moments that were a little corny,
I agreed.
again, I use the word forced. That's something in a movie like this. If it doesn't seem natural, it's when something happens. That's so not quite all the way there. Not the way I felt with Wrath of Khan.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah,
Um,
or even the previous. I thought it's on par with the previous movie.
well, see, that's funny because I think in some ways the reason I scored it 10 and I scored, in fact, I did Wrath of Khan. I did all 4 movies for this exercise. We can talk about it
Hmm.
later. I may put it in the Substack, so I won't spoil the whole thing here. I gave both the last 2 movies 9s, and the only
Hmm.
reason I gave this one a 10, and again, it's me trying to figure out how to make the scale work in my brain. This movie is there's no death.
Yes.
There's no sadness. It's mostly a romp. Therefore, I thought it deserved to be higher on the funness factor
Hmm.
than the other two. Although I probably have more fun watching Wrath of Khan than watching this movie. So I don't
Yeah.
know. And part of this I'm sort of sorting out the scale, but that's how I that's
Okay.
how I arrived at that conclusion at least.
Okay. How about the feels?
I only gave it a 6.
Yeah, I gave it a 5. It's not plucking at your heartstrings. I mean, it gives you a warm feeling
Yes.
that you see the characters working together, and some of the humor certainly felt quite natural for
Hmm.
the characters themselves. But not like Wrath of Khan, and not even like
No.
not even like Search for Spock.
Oh no, no, no. I gave Search for Spock a 9.
Yeah.
And maybe a 6 is a little high. I could probably be persuaded to revise that down. Um,
How about
because really
filmmaking?
the
Okay.
only feels really are maybe between Spock and between Spock and Amanda at the beginning, Spock and Sarek at the end, and when they see the new Enterprise.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm gonna knock that down to a 5 since we're revising on the fly here.
Okay.
It's
Uh,
group think in action.
yes, it is. Okay, filmmaking.
I gave it an 8.
Yeah, I gave it an A too. It's a really well
It,
executed
it's
movie.
solid, but I would say, and I gave excuse me, I gave Search for Spock a 9.
Hmm.
I felt there was more artistic directing in 3 than there was in 4. 4 was more straightforward. It's well constructed, but
Right.
it's pretty straightforward in my mind.
Yeah. And overall Trekness.
I gave it a 7.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
on
Okay.
the one hand, I thought it was a friendship. The friendship of the characters was essential to the film, and the optimism was essential to the film. But you can know very little about Star Trek and understand Star Trek
Hmm.
very little to watch this movie. It is the least, to me, it's the least Trekky movie of them all in that sense.
Okay.
That's why
That's
I
an
gave it a
excellent
7.
point. Yeah, I gave it a 9, but I'm going to drop it down to an 8 based on what you just said. Um, okay. So that gives me a total of 37. How about you?
I got a 38, so we're in the same ballpark.
We're in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Um, we I gave the previous movie a higher score.
I gave it a 45. What did you give it?
That was a 41.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is my hot take. I last time we said there was this ridiculous meme about the odd numbered
Yes.
versus the even numbered Star Trek movies.
Yes.
And I haven't really changed my opinion about this movie over the years, other than maybe finding Catherine Hicks a little less appealing as an
Hmm.
actress.
Right.
But I did love her acting in the first watch of this movie
Right.
back in the 80s. So I just think the other two predecessor movies are better.
I agree. Again, I think that this movie appeals to non-Star Trek fans the most in many
Mhm.
ways.
Yeah.
But I And I like this movie, I do, but in rewatching it, I did, especially back to back. There's something about watching these things together sometimes instead of interesting or enlightening. I just felt like I liked Star Trek 3 better as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always loved Star Trek 3. I never understood the whole it's a bad movie argument. It's always seemed silly to me. So I'm not surprised by doing the scoring that it came out the way that it did. But
Yeah.
like I said, I did the motion picture and I did Wrath of Khan, but I'll save that as maybe Substack fodder. I won't spoil it right here.
Okay. Be
Got
interesting
to
to
keep
see
coming back for
how.
more people. I know, tease, tease, tease.
Yes, tease, 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 and Lord only knows what our scores will be for Star Trek V when we get around to doing that.
Mm.
It's a mystery, a deep, dark mystery. All right. All right. So merch. Did you have any
Yeah.
Star Trek 4 specific merch?
So I did dig in my closet after the last podcast and looked up.
Okay.
I do have the movie magazine. In fact, I had the movie magazines for two, three, and four. Look at that.
Oh my goodness.
Very exciting. And I had the Star Trek 4 soundtrack on CD. It was one of the first
Hmm.
CDs that I owned
Okay.
because my big graduation from high school gift was a CD player.
Yes.
And it
I
was
was I,
large.
I was so excited when I got a CD player.
Oh yeah, it was very exciting.
Uh, all right. I didn't have anything that was Star Trek 4 specific. I did have, as I mentioned last time, a, Bird of Prey t-shirt. I don't know if the Micro Machines had already come out, but there was certainly a little version of the Bird of Prey somewhere
Hmm.
on a shelf at home. Was there anything that you wished you'd had?
You go ahead and go first because I'm just going to copy you because I couldn't think of anything else.
Oh, okay. So I just said it would be nice to have one of those Bird of Prey models with HMS Bounty spray painted on it.
That works. I mean, again, I'm a sucker for Starship miniatures, even though I don't really have any.
Yeah.
But it's yeah. Starship, I guess I'll tell them myself. So it's one of those things that probably if I had in an alternate universe where I was a sad, lonely, single person,
Hmm.
my house would be full of that kind of nonsense. I just have not indulged because really we're gonna, I got room in here. I got shelves. They're my shelves. I could do what I wanted with them, but I don't know. There'd be ships everywhere, I expect.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just
I
have
don't.
not, I don't
Yeah.
indulge it because I'm afraid that I won't stop. How about that?
I know. Yes. And you become a geek hoarder, not
That's
just a
right.
geek.
That's right.
Yeah, and I made the decision deliberately not to do that. So
Yes.
I have exactly one Star Trek bit of paraphernalia, tchotchke, whatever you call it, on the shelf. It's the original Enterprise. There's a little tiny model on the
Mm.
bookshelf over
I
there.
I used to I had made the movie era model and the AMT kits, painted
Yeah.
it the whole thing. It may have been the A, and if it was the A, then that would count too. I can't remember.
No, that
I
makes
had
sense.
it. I had it. I made it in college, so it must have been. It had to have been the A. And I hung it. I had it hanging in my office in my apartment when I was in grad school. And one night there was a really terrible rainstorm in Texas. We had a flat roof on the apartment, and it leaked where the model was, and it fell down. I don't
Oh
think it
no.
survived. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got to have a picture of it somewhere. I got to see if it's the A. So who knows?
Well,
Maybe that counts.
so that's really interesting. Our kind of our attitudes towards all of these uh, physical icons of the things that we love. Like for
Yes.
Star Trek, I remember as a kid, I got the AMT model of the
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise,
Yeah.
which I seem to remember having lights in it.
I think there was a version that did have lights.
Yeah,
No, the original one did not. I had that one. Yeah.
right, and I had it, and I had the Klingon Bird of Prey. It's not Bird of Prey,
D7.
the
Come on.
D7
Don't.
Katinga class. There you go.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Okay,
It's
top
going
of
to give you
that.
geek.
Um, and I remember like like a couple of years later, I had these things and they were sitting around and like, what am I going to be doing with these?
That's the problem. That is the
Yeah.
problem.
And I think that was like where the bulb went on. It's like there are probably only so many of these things I should
Yes,
ever
that's right.
buy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can spend a lot of money on this stuff. That's also the problem.
Right.
I have a few miscellaneous things, but it's often, like here's a tiny TARDIS on my desk, but it was like a pencil topper and it probably cost a couple
Right.
of bucks.
Yeah, well, like books and things that are book-like are a
Yes.
slightly different matter. I tend to be a little more liberal towards that. Like, I had the Star Trek blueprints. They have the
Yeah, I have
Enterprise.
those still
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, and yeah, technical manual, and
Oh yeah.
uh, there was a book of maps of the galaxy that came out
Hmm.
at one point. But that's just like on a shelf. It's narrow. It doesn't take up a
That's right.
lot of space. It's
That's right.
actually something I think you can enjoy more because you pull it out, you flip through it.
Hmm.
Or if you're really geeky and you're doing a podcast and you need to look something up for a future episode, it's a handy reference that justifies your purchase completely.
There you go.
Right. Uh,
Sure.
but a model kit, it's like it's just gathering dust.
Yeah, I mean, really, the model, it's mostly the
But
joy of building it,
well,
and
and
I'm
no
not.
and no judgment to listeners who have a bunch of
No,
those
no,
things.
no,
It's just not my thing. It's just not my thing.
no. I would be, I guess what I'm confessing it would be easy for me to get into that kind of thing, but at some
Yes,
point, yeah, what do you
it's a
do with
slippery
it?
slope.
It's kind of like, my mother-in-law likes Santa Clauses, and she has a whole curio cabinet full of Santa Clauses. But at some point, how many Santa Clauses can you have?
Right. Well, and then you're talking to the guy who had way too many games. So it's just, pick your source of
You got to pick
clutter, I
something.
guess.
That's right.
You got to pick
That's right.
something.
That's right. First world problems.
First world problems. All right. Well, I think we've reached the conclusion not just of the trilogy of Star Trek movies that we've been talking about, but also this particular episode. So thanks everybody for listening.
Adios.
And so we bring this very jocular episode of Ancient Geeks to a close. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review on the podcast app of your choice. Or at the very least, like and subscribe. We'd be very grateful. If you want to reach out to us directly, drop us a line at someancientgeeks@gmail.com. Also, cruise on over to Substack to find, well, our Substack, where Stephen and I both post at someancientgeek.substack.com. And also, you'll find us on Facebook, Reddit, Blue Sky, and other social media outlets. All content is copyright 2025, Tom Grant and Stephen Taylor. Music by Reversed Image, which we can find on Pixabay. Thanks for listening and see you next time.
Are you sure it isn't time for a colorful metaphor?